Mary Amanda Mushet Collins, otherwise known as Sister Mary and Aunt May. She is the pastor of the Emmanuel Apostolic Church. And her children are telling us some of their family stories. Here is son Samuel Collins.
I wanted to be an accountant. Why I wanted to be an accountant is that back in those days, my father had an insurance policy. And then at the end of the year, he used to get in a specialist, an accountant who would come in and look through the books, update the books, and then submit the information, and then you would get a rebate. Mm-hmm. So I saw this gentleman in his black pants, white shirt, and black tie, and I was impressed. You know, I was probably about 12, age 12, I was impressed. And I said, Papa, what a man there do? And he said, son, him accountants. That's what he said, him accountants. And he was genuine. Yeah. Because it was years afterwards that I learned my father really couldn't read. Yeah. I went to high school. The closest I got to accounts was commerce in those days. Went to CAS, wanted to do business administration. I got to talking to the registrar then. And the registrar said to me, then son, tell me something. What is it that you did before you got here? I said, I did 4 years of preaching and teaching. And she said, so why don't you try this subject then? And she introduced me to business education. I know in business education, the two main subjects are accounting and the principles of business. But then, in those days, you could either go into the classroom as a business education teacher, or you could go into business. Mm-hmm. Once you're being trained as a teacher in those days, you got a stipend. Now, having the Christian background, you know, from my parents, yeah. I said, no, I can't just eat the government money and then don't go into the classroom. So I went into the classroom. I started out at the Woolmer's Boys School in Kingston. You know, so my father and my mother, although my father couldn't read, and my mother did not get to go where she wanted, but she ensured that we all were exposed to a good education. Oh. Today, I'm employed at the University Hospital. Mm-hmm. I'm the director of training at the University Hospital. I've been there now for 10 and a half years.
Right. Looking back, what went wrong while your father grew up without learning how to read and write?
The little that he has told us about his growing up in North Manchester, Craighead, is that, first of all, they had quite a number of brothers and sisters. I think there were about 14 of them that his parents had. And that, of course, mitigated against them being able to send them, in finding the finances to send them to school.
Just the size of the family.
Just the size of the family. Yeah. And the other thing, they were steeply involved in farming. And at a very early age, you have to learn to dig your yam hills and cut your yam stick and so forth. So most of the time, they were out of school farming. Yes. The other thing is that he told us is their religious belief. They were steeped in what we call Pocomaniaism, Pocomania, revivalism. Yes. And they had this belief that if you try to progress too much, people are going to keep you back. They would walk over upon you and keep you back, so to speak. And as soon as a little thing happened, they just gave up. Yes. Because they felt that they were being held back. Yes. And this is one of the reasons why my father was happy that he was able to leave that side, because they had that thing to say, they tie you down. Yes. And he was happy to leave that side to come to South. Coming to South, he really started to prosper. Yes. The first thing was meeting my mother. Yes. my mother. Yes. He really started prospering, having met her and coming into the church.
Yes, that's very interesting.
Yes. Eden is the, where were you from?
I'm the fourth child. I'm a bit teary-eyed because I was around the back and my nieces, they were singing, and the song they were singing about my mother, and they were saying that she was someone who taught us right and wrong, and someone who ensured that we grew up with purpose. Hearing all of that and really recognizing that my mother, she's really, really special, a very special mommy. Even the other day, we came down and had a birthday party for her, and it came home to me so strongly that she had 7 children. you know. And she found time as a housewife and also take care of her husband. And she had a church that started from nothing, call it that. She was also the person who was an encourager. When I did the common entrance, I didn't pass the common entrance. Grade 5. It's as if I didn't find myself there. But I remember coming to grade 6. I remember when we were supposed to go for it, we had to walk about 4 miles to Prattville. From Lancaster, from Lancaster, from my home, to Prattville to do the exam. I remember two neighbors, the children, we were supposed to travel together, walk together to go to their exam. And when we came out to the gate, only to hear that they were gone. And I was the only one left, and I had to walk. And I remember she said, don't mind Eden. Go, take your time and walk, and go and do your exam. There were only 2 passes, and out of those 2 passes, of course, I was one of them. I went in there and did exceptionally well, especially in math, also in language art. She didn't just leave us alone like that, sending us to Sunday school. And she was always, you could hear her at about 4 o'clock each morning on her knees. And she was praying, and she was calling each child by name.
Eden remembers when the pastor of the church left before her mother took over, and the church began to fall apart.
When he left, it was just a few of the members. And when he left, and before he left, he said, it's rat bat. The church was right here, and it was a small structure. And he said a rat bat was going to take it over. The few members, they went home, they stayed at home. Nobody was coming to the church. And guess who took it up on her head? Nobody asked her to. Nobody called her from headquarters and said, do it. But she took it on her head to come to the church almost every night to pray. In the darkness, the road wasn't asphalted then. The rocky stones, 1 mile. 1 mile, dark night, no electricity, nothing. And she would come up here to pray at the altar. And I was one who normally come with her. She used to carry me in the nights with her, and I would be sleeping at the altar, and she would be praying.
And the people started to come back into the church
and after that, sir, it was like a miracle. Things just started turning around. Young people started coming into the church, persons who were here previously, they came back. Until you see this structure that we have here now,
yes.
Coming out of that, coming out of my mother. Just one woman. Nobody could ask her to, but she was chosen. She was called by God.
At Lancaster in Manchester on Hill and Gully Ride with Aunt May at the Emmanuel Apostolic Church, of which she is the pastor.
She would pray at about 4 o'clock or so in the morning, religiously, and she would call all of us names. And incidentally, I'd be the second one, as soon as she called my name, I would just wake up to hear that. And it used to annoy me a lot that she was calling me and praying. And so after a while, I really drifted from the whole religious thing. But she kept on praying. When she was coming through the square to come to church, I was holding a film show in the square. I was having a dance and so on, and she had to pass that. And sometimes it was just she alone passing. But she walked through that crowd with her head held high on her Bible. And I can remember that back in the days, in a dance hall, at about midnight, if you don't have a partner, then that's it for you. In other words, if you don't have a girl, then that's it for you. Girl. But somewhere around that time, when my mother would be praying, and I should be locked down with that girl, so to speak, and comfortable with that girl, I got very uncomfortable. At the point in time, she would have been kneeling down at home praying. Mm-hmm. And I got very uncomfortable, and there were people around me who couldn't understand. So after a while, I started not to enjoy the whole dance hall and that kind of thing. And I started coming closer and closer to the church. So that's, a part of her prayer. Yeah. In the nights, for example, when we took sick, and if you're going to get to a doctor, it would have to be by donkey. And it would have to be in the morning, because there was very little motor vehicle in those days. So she would stock up her Thermogene, and she would have other things, Vicks and all of those things, so that when any of us get sick, she always had those things to administer. But one of the things is that she used to link in with Reverend Oral Roberts, back then, who was a radio evangelist. And he used to have a time when he would pray and ask for people to rest their hands on the radio cabinet. And she would make sure that she wake us up, all of us. We were sick or whatever, and we rest our hands on that radio cabinet. And those of us who were sick would have been healed.
I'm Paulette Shand. I'm the 5th child.
Yes.
During our growing up, my mother used to read just about anything. And anything we were reading, she would be reading that too. And I think that has influenced my life in a great way.
So she mastered the art of reading?
She was a great reader. Now maybe you don't hear her speaking so much, but Bishop S.U. Thomas would also say that she's one of the most eloquent speakers, especially when she's anointed. Yes. You would think that she has been educated at a certain level. But I think she has passed some of that on to us. What she did not achieve, we have achieved to a certain extent. I have been privileged to study at the highest level. My mother told me that when she went into labor to have me, that she was alone. And she prayed a special prayer to God. She told him that if he allowed her to come through safely, then she would give me to him. She said when she was also pregnant with me, sometimes when the Holy Spirit was moving, I would be leaping in her. Mm-hmm. She said that sometimes when the power of God was moving, she was afraid that it would break up my body. When I faced a certain tragedy in my life some years ago, she went back to God and she was praying. And she was telling God, remember what I said to you when I went into labor. You knew that this day would come when she would be facing this tragedy. And that took a hold of me, and it sort of carried me through that period that I was going to. I have a cert in education, a diploma in education, a BA degree, that's in literatures in English, and MBA, and I also have my doctorate in management in organizational leadership.
Yes. So the things that your mother wanted to be somehow have been passed on to you and others to be fulfilled in their lives. You and your brother Colin, for instance.
Yes, sir.
Collins. Yes, that's strange, isn't it? What's your name?
Miriam Thompson, the 3rd child. My grandmother died when I was about 6 years old. And I could remember seeing her crying, my mother. And I didn't know what she was crying for. So I asked her, Mama, why are you crying? And she said, because my mother died. I said to her, I rubbed her back and I said, don't cry, Mama. When me turn big, me I go look after you. I went away to Canada for 3 years, and hearing that my father was ill, I want to come back home. I pledge in my heart that I'm going to take care of my parents, comes what may. I'm going to take care, not for money, but for the love that is in my heart. She read a lot. Right now, I can't read without glasses, and she read without glasses.
Incidentally, what year was she born in?
What year? Yes. My mother? 1927. Mm-hmm. June 7th.
June 7th, 1927?
Yes.
Okay.
7 o'clock one Monday morning. My mom.
7 o'clock one Monday morning.
I'm Ephraim Collins,
yes.
And I'm the last child. When I was 4 years old, I lost sight. I got hit in my left eye, And my mother was always there for me, every step of the way. And even during that period of time, being there with me, she used to be running the church, running the home, running the community. Because if you listen, everybody tells you that she prays. She prays for everybody. She's 85 years old, and she's still praying for me. I did not recover my sight. I still went to school, and I am now really a tradesman. I do like tiling and plumbing. So she did all that a woman could do for her children. It was 7 of us, and it was very hard, but she fought the battle, you know, and that's why we're here today.
Yes.
In the church circle, in those days, it was not the best thing for you to go to college, because we were basically told you were looking forward to the coming of the Lord, basically. So if you didn't get a college degree, it was not that important. What was most important, that you are saved, sweetly saved. So most persons did not aspire to go to college. If you didn't get a college education, it was okay. There was honey and wine in heaven, so and milk. So it was okay then. But afterwards, young people began to recognize that it wasn't just cool to be saved. We needed education. We need to go further. And so young people themselves started to look towards education and started some cart their own way without their parents to go to college.
Yes.
If you did not get the common entrance, because I remember girls that were in my class, that same grade 6 class, they were very intelligent, but somehow or another they didn't get the common entrance, and they ended up being like domestic workers.
There was a lot of waste that took place.
Yes.
Hill and Gully Ride at Lancaster in Manchester, where Aunt May's children are telling us all sorts of things that they remember about life with her.
As much as my mother used to read, and my father had the ambition to drive and so on, but I can't remember coming home one day and my mother would say, what did you get to do at school today? Or what homework, and so on and so on and so forth. So you would find out then that back in the day, the families did not push you, so to speak. The family back in the day did not have that motivation to push their children. I mean, you go and you tuck your exercise book in your back pocket and so on, and nobody will ask you how it is and so on and so on and so forth. The teachers, they tried a lot to push you, but when you go back home, there wasn't that support to push you forward.
Yes.
Other than that also, there was the poverty, because I can tell you the truth. Although my father was fairly well off as a minibus operator, taking care of 7 of us, and it was just 7 of us. My father had a couple other marriages, and that is something worth mentioning too, that he had about 5 other children apart from us. But my mother saw that all of those children came into our home. You know, back then, mothers would say, no, they're going to rob my children, take away their birthright and so on. When my father probably would want them to stay, peradventure they'd come and cause conflict, and so my mother said, no, go for them. They came into the home and she ensured that all of them went to school and were exposed to education just like the rest of us.
She took them in because they were his children.
Right.
Yes.
My name is Stephen Emmanuel Collins, and I am the first of 7 children for my mother. We are here today only because the sole purpose of our mother. One of the time I used to go to a church round up here in Lancaster, you say Bamboo Road. In those days, we had to cut grass to put into, we'd get flower bags and wash them and make the mattress bag and stuff the grass in there, and those days were the mattress. Some people don't love to hear that because they are so used to this the nice ones now. But we come from them. I can remember one time my mother take me and my brother, and we slept the night with neighbors. And when we get up in the morning, my brother was saying, Steve, a banana trash.
A banana what?
Banana trash in the mattress. And I remember when Christmas was coming around, we would cut new grass and take the old one out And sometimes we'd get new bags to make new mattress bag. And that was it. That was the days of foundation. And you see, right now we are living in rich times now. Because if you go to everybody's house, you can find TV and radio, and plenty radio. And you can find boots, good boots, and plenty old boots. Remember when you only have one boot, if you have a boot. Mm-hmm. Because we would go to school barefoot and buck our toes and all these things. But those were foundation. This little church, you know, we had been, and I remember we sang this song. The Sunday school for me, the Sunday school for me. It was really organized in 1963. It stands for power and purity and royal unity. Thank God for the blessed Sunday school.
Lovely.
Mama, what would be your message to Jamaica now?
As a Jamaican, I'm concerned that Jamaica will turn to God before he puts in his appearance. Yes, I'm concerned and I'm praying, for Jamaica is really in a mess. So many are dying without Christ. The message in the Bible, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand, and turn to God, because our country is really in a terrible state. If we are Christians, we must have to be concerned. May this circle be unbroken. Shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. That's why we are here in Emmanuel celebrating. Hey, hey, hey.
We are the grandchildren of Pastor Mary Collins. You're a woman with a mission, a vision, and a plan. Take every matter in your own hands. You have a heart of a shepherd and sweet peace of mind. I'm telling you, Grandma, you are one of a kind. We would not have been here if it wasn't for you, Grandma. You carried us into this world for a purpose. We know we don't show how much you mean to us, Grandma. But Grandma, you're the best we've ever had. If it wasn't for your prayers, we'd be dead, not alive. We would not have been here if it wasn't for you, Grandma. You carried us into this world for a purpose. We know we don't show how much you mean to us, Grandma. But Grandma, you're the best we've ever had.
Who did the words of that song? What inspired you to write the words? Tell me.
Actually, well, I'm not a big writer really. I just do it occasionally. And I just sat there one day and I thought of my family. And what really inspired me also was my mother and my grandmother, because my grandmother raised my mom. So she kind of have that same personality. So my mom actually inspired me to write that song.
Thank you very much. It was a beautiful, lovely song.
I'm telling you, Grandma, you are one of a kind. We would not have been here if it wasn't for you, Grandma. You carried us into this world for a purpose. We know we don't show how much you mean to us, Grandma. But Grandma, you're the best we've ever had.
Hill and Gully ride with Aunt May at Lancaster in Manchester. She is one of that legion of stalwart senior ladies who have helped to keep communities and families together across the length and breadth of Jamaica. And we make our way uphill. Thank you for watching Hill and Gully Ride.